Got a baby, toddler, grandbaby, grandtoddler, maybe a great-grandbaby. Well, we got one of those. And I made a swing for it. I didn't make the swing, I'm making the stand. We started out with one that we had up at our cabana, and she absolutely loved it, so I'm going to make a couple of them. Here's how I do it. Hi, I'm Roger, and this is the shop, and welcome to it. If you haven't been here before, do a lot of different things. It might be woodworking, might be some mechanical repairs, might be a little bit of mechanic stuff, might be a little welding, you never know. This is the shop. I fix things, I build things, mainly concentrate on woodworking, but there's a lot of other things that go on in here. What we're going to talk about here is an outdoor swing for a baby and a toddler. And it's designed to be for outdoors, so therefore it's made out of treated wood. And before anybody panics about using a treated wood around a baby or a toddler, the newer treated wood does not have arsenic in it. It does have copper, and it is treated to resist decay and bugs and this and that. And one of the things I've noticed about it is that wasps and hornets tend to avoid it when they're gathering their cellulose. So that said, what I will be doing is building this. It'll set out in the sun for a few days to dry. The edges where a baby or a toddler could possibly reach will be chamfered. After it sits outside for a few days, that'll be sanded, probably all the way down to 200 or 220. And then it will be sealed. So, and of course you shouldn't let a kid chew on wood anyway. I know they like to chew on things, but that shouldn't happen. At any rate, this is going to be built around one of these swings here. It's made by Little Tikes. It's got a little thing here that goes in for an infant. And when the child gets older and becomes a toddler, this part can be removed. And it's just a basic swing. It's not going to be made real tall, and it's not going to be made for, I don't know if you were trying to do loop-de-loops when you were a kid, but no, it's not made for that. And the plus side of it is that once the child outgrows it, the legs can be cut down and it can become a sawhorse. This is going to be built the same way we build our sawhorses and the same way we build our bench horses, our bench supports for our greenhouses. The top will be an I-beam construction. Yes, it's way overkill for an infant or a toddler, but as I said, once the child outgrows it, you could cut the legs down to say a 36-inch height and use it for a sawhorse. I'm going to be making two of these. We're going to have one here, and our granddaughter's going to have one. So needless to say, this swing, or series of swings, is made for our great-granddaughter. So if you're young and you haven't had kids yet, someday you'll have kids, and they'll grow up and they'll have kids, you'll become a grandparent. And you can spoil those kids. Believe me, been there, done that. We got 9 of them. And once those grandchildren grow up and get older and find a mate, then you end up with great-grandchildren. And we have one of those right now. Now right now she's 7 months old, and we have one of these swings that we use up at where we camp on weekends, and she just absolutely loves it. So we have her here from time to time, so I'm going to build one for here, and I'll show you how it's done. What this is built out of are just the common treated 2x4s, 8-footers that you can buy at the home stores. I prefer Menards, but you could go to Lowe's or Home Depot or one of those places. There's lots of other lumber yards. And no, you don't have to use treated wood. You could use just common construction 2x4s. They just won't last as long. And the reason I'm doing this out of treated, as I mentioned, I'm going to use them for sawhorses once the child outgrows it. Or we may keep it, because you never know, there might be another great-grandchild coming along. We do have some other grandchildren that are certainly of age, and yeah, it could happen. But what we're going to do is make the top 3 feet wide and the legs 5 feet long. Therefore, you can use an 8-foot 2x4. You'll have some 5-foot pieces and some 3-foot pieces. The The top consists of an I-beam, which are 3 pieces 3 feet long. Then there will be 4 5-foot legs, and there'll be a 12-degree bevel cut on each end of those legs, and I'll show you how that works. That's the 3-foot piece. That's the 5-foot piece, which will become the leg. You'll need 3 of the 3-foot pieces and 4 of the 5-foot pieces. So no, it doesn't come out exactly even. But I'll get the rest of these cut. I'll show you how we assemble this. Okay, once you get your pieces cut to length, what you're going to want to do is cut a bevel, a 12-degree bevel on each end. One this way, and then one the opposite direction. I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. What this does is then this side, being the bottom, sits on the ground and it'll be flush. No, you don't have to do this, but it makes for a lot nicer product. And the top part, where it butts up against the I-beam, having that 12-degree bevel here will give it a better purchase and allow you to screw it in just a little bit better. And I'll show you what I mean here. It's very simple to do. I actually have a mark on my saw table, since I've done so many of these, of where to line this up. Okay, so after you make your first cut like this, you want to turn it around to the other end and then flip it over so that the long end of the bevel is towards you. To give you an example, I'll put the one I've already cut next to it. So we have the long end facing me, like so. And what we'll have here then, when we make the cut, it'll be just the opposite of the other end. So make your first cut, flip it end for end, then roll it over. You know, I did mention that I have a mark on my saw table down here because I've done so many of these just for this purpose. You get this little piece off. You definitely want to have all the legs the same length. You don't want them to be different or the thing will be wobbly. I'll get the rest of these cut and then we'll assemble the I-beam. Okay, the next thing you're going to want to do is take your 3 3-foot pieces and stack them up. Measure in 1 inch on each side. A 2x4 is 3.5 inches wide and 1.5 inches thick. Since the center portion is going to be upright, you want to have marks so you can get this aligned perfectly on each end. I've already marked this 1 inch in from each end, and once you do that, just take yourself a square and draw a line up. Yeah, granted, you don't necessarily need that center mark on the middle one, but this is easy to do. You could just stack 2 of them, but it's just easy to do 3. Then you can find out if you've got one of them the wrong length. Once that's done, set one off to the side here. One of them goes up on end like this. And this will line up just like that. And somebody forgot to get the screws out, so let me go get those. Okay, once you've got everything aligned, I'm using 3-inch outdoor deck screws. You obviously want to have right in the center. Make sure you're all centered there and everything's even. It's important to have this even or your legs will end up crooked. And you want to do the same thing at the other end. And once you have the two ends done, you add a couple more down through the center, and if you're not sure where the center is, you can use a tape measure. And it's just a matter of flipping it over and doing the same thing. Boy, is this some wet wood. That's why I said it's going to have to sit out in the sun for a few days before I do the sanding and sealing on it. Of course, with it being in the 90s in this hot sun, it'll dry out pretty fast. Okay, that's the construction of the I-beam portion. And while we have this out here, it's a good time to put in the eyes that the swing's going to hang off of. The ropes are 12 inches apart. So to make a quick way to do this, this is 3 feet long. So we'll mark it out 18's the center, then go 6 inches each way. Or you could measure in a foot from each end. That would also work. And you want to have that in the center. Well, I got to screw real close to where I got to put my 1 3/4 as the center. And what we have for that are some lag eyes. That's these guys here, complete with tags. You can opt for stainless steel if you actually want to spend the money for them. I just opted for the regular ones. Now you can't just go throwing these in there, you got to drill a pilot hole. I believe these are 3/8. They certainly look 3/8. Yeah, they're 3/8. So you want to drill a 5/16 pilot hole for them. Believe me, it makes it a lot easier when there's a pilot hole here. Boy, this is wet. And it's just a matter of screwing them in. The screwdriver will give you great leverage for that. These lag eyes may be overkill for a baby or a toddler, but it's something I already kind of had here. I didn't want to make another trip to go buy some other ones. You could use 5/16 or even 1/4 inch. But I can guarantee you that that baby and toddler will never be heavy enough to pull these out. And once they outgrow it and you want to convert these back to sawhorses, they're easily just unscrewed and taken out. And it would be on the bottom side, so it wouldn't affect the working surface at all. Okay, next. What I'm going to be doing is, this is not necessary, I'm going to put a taper on all of the legs, on the edges, to take the any kind of rough edges off. And what I'm going to be doing here is putting a taper on all 4 edges. There, from the factory, it does have a little bit of a round over on the edges, and you could also use a round over bit, but I already had a taper bit in the router table, so didn't really want to change it. And this will work just fine. Like I said, after it sits out in the sun for a few days and the wood dries, and by God, it's really wet right now. But once it does dry, I'll be taking the sander to it, and we'll make sure there's nothing rough and no splinters anywhere. that off so we can hear. I'll get the rest of these beveled and then we'll do the assembly. Okay, the next part of this could be a little tricky if you're by yourself, you don't have any help. If you can have a helper to hold the other end of the leg, it'd be great. Like I said, since these are 5 feet long, they can be a little bit unwieldy. When I build sawhorses, of course, I'm using 3-foot legs, or bench horses, sometimes only 24-inch. So that makes it a lot easier and a lot easier to handle. One of the things you want to do first is lay your I-beam down on a table or some work surface with the eye bolts facing down. Then grab one of your legs, and on the short side of the bevel, hopefully you can see that here, start a couple screws. That will go up onto the end of this. Like I said, this is where if you had a helper it would be nice, because this is going to be a little tricky doing this by myself, but we'll see how it goes. Want to get out there just flush to the end. Set one of those screws. You get yourself a square. Get that leg squared up. Set the next one. Of course, it's going to want to hang down because of the weight. Then you want to take 2 more and run through the board so that it runs into the bottom cord of the I-beam up high. If you wanted to get exotic, you could cut this and chisel that out a little bit and notch it. I'm not going to get that exotic with this. And we'll do the same thing here on the other end. This maybe give you a little bit better idea what I'm doing. Hopefully the camera can see the end of that. Square on there and make sure it's straight. Hit the screw. Now you'll need to flip it over and do the other side. Now I can't get to the legs. Poor planning. This will be basically the same thing, just on the other side. Like I said, if you'd have a helper, it would be great. I don't. Okay, now we'll get this thing set up and get it outside, and we'll get the last part of it. And it is heavy because that wood is so wet. Okay, so if everything went well, and note to self is assemble the next one outside. That was a bear getting this out here. If everything went well, this thing will be sitting level. And all 4 legs should be equal on the ground, as you see here. So the last thing I want to do here, and this is not absolutely necessary, but it's something that I want to add, right on the end down here where it's a little bit ugly, where all the pieces come together. And on a actual sawhorse, the legs are inset, and then there's a brace piece underneath. I have some scrap deck boards I'm going to use and cover this up. I'll show you how I do that. Okay, this isn't something you have to do. I'm going to do it just, and it'll add a little bit extra strength too. I've got some pieces of deck board that were left over from a tear-off I did, and they're fine on one side, a little ugly on the other, but I'm going to put the ugly side in so you won't see it. And I'm going to cheat here. I'm not even going to measure. Just going to hold this thing up here level with the bottom of that board right there. Take pencil, mark a line up the back on each side. Like that, and then I'll cut those off and I'll screw that on there. That's a 20-degree angle in case you're wanting to keep track or want to set your miter saw to it. Get in there. Clamp would be a good thing to use. And these edges will get sanded too when after things dry and I sand this down to put a sealer on it. So we'll do the other end. Something I had mentioned earlier, and actually I put in captions about making the legs 7 feet long if you don't want to do the rope wrap. This is what the rope wrap ended up being. We had to wrap the rope around the top of this once to keep the swing up high enough. And I haven't done the finish on this yet, but great-granddaughter has sampled this and she just absolutely loves it. She's not old enough yet to be able to reach the boards. But once these dry out, I'll be sanding them down, putting the finish on it. Something we noticed on our swing we have up at the campground at the cabana is that the ropes on it are shorter. So I don't know what Little Tikes did, or anyway, this works. Not for any kind of violent swinging or anything, but it does a good job. Okay, a little update since I shot the last segment of the video there that you saw where we had to wrap the ropes around. The one that we have up at our cabana at the campground does have shorter ropes on it, and the other swing has longer ropes than this one, so I'm not real sure what's up with that. When I first designed this and decided to build it using the 5-foot legs to make the best use of an 8-foot 2x4, I was basing it on the swing that we already had. The hook that I hang it on is pretty much eye level with me, so that's about 6 feet. And it hangs, it's a couple of feet off the ground, and I can easily sit in an adjacent swing and swing her back and forth on it and make her giggle. But anyway, if you got something out of this, or if you like it, I appreciate getting a thumbs up. I know there may be some negative comments about me using that treated wood, but as I said, it will all be sealed, and we are not going to allow children to chew on it or mess with it. And when it gets to the point where the child has outgrown that, they will become sawhorses. So, we're always looking for subscribers, so hit that subscribe button, if I can talk. Right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. If you hit that bell, you'll be notified when we post another video. Otherwise, until the next one, thanks for watching. But wait, there's more. Right behind me is the 7-foot example with a couple of embellishments, and I'll go into detail here real quick on what they are. This is probably not the ideal place to have this because I'm shooting right into the sun, but this is a 7-foot version, or the version with the 7-foot legs. As you can see here, sets the swing well up off the ground, and as I said, these ropes were a little bit longer than the last one I did. Some of the things I added over here where maybe the camera can see this a little better. Added this little, and this isn't really necessary, but it helps to keep it from wobbling. Add this little brace on the side. That's a good place for great-grandma to set her coffee cup when she's out there with the great-granddaughter, or me if my beverage. I also added a couple of braces up here in the corner to kind of take out what I call the wobblation factor. Nothing really difficult. The angles on these braces down here, if you decide to do this, are 17 degrees. And there's a vertical 2x4 with a horizontal on top, and I did it on both sides. Okay, so that's it for sure this time. Just wanted to kind of show you what the 7-foot example looked like, and this one here had a little bit longer ropes than the last one. But it'll work out well, and as soon as everything here dries, because this is some really wet stuff, I'll get this sanded and sealed. Otherwise, I think tomorrow the granddaughter, of course 7 months old, she can't reach these sides. We'll let her try it out. I'm sure she'll like it. Thanks. Thanks for watching.